big news of the day. The government going to pay superannuation on its paid parental leave program. Let's bring in the Liberal member for Flinders, Zoe McKenzie. I guess you'd be very supportive of this move by the government, Zoe, to include super on PPL.
Yeah, look, interestingly, Kieran, this is one I raised myself within the four walls of the Howard government about 20 years ago. It did seem to me an absence in our policy lineup back then. The question is always, when can you afford it? To be fair, 20 years ago when we'd retired all net debt, that probably was the right time for raising it and thinking about it. Now, you've got to remember, these payments go on the country's credit card. And there's also a flow-on effect that will be for small to medium business. Those sorts of businesses are the lifeblood of my electorate. And the question is, that becomes the norm. How are they going to afford it? And will it perversely disincentivise employing women, particularly around their most reproductive ages? So we need to be careful about how these things are implemented. We need to be careful about the perverse effects they may well have in the market. But in principle, of course, the fact that women end up at the end of their career with significantly less superannuation has been a long-term concern and is shared by women across the political spectrum.
It also has that flow-on effect of improving health outcomes for women and children by having the PPL in place.
Absolutely. Paid parental leave is essential. And by the way, it's essential that we also encourage men to take paid parental leave as well. All the evidence shows that if you have one or both or either parent, men or women at home in those early years, that the child will fare really well. So that is important, and we must make sure men are encouraged as much as possible to take that parental leave payment as well.
Let's talk about the big political roll of the dice that Peter Dutton's confirmed basically in the last couple of days. The policy's not finalised yet, but nuclear energy, we've been talking about small target oppositions for quite a while. This is not a small target opposition now.
No, it's not. And it's really important that we have all energy solutions on the table. I went to COP27 in Egypt about 18 months ago now, and it was a fascinating conversation with the business sector, but equally parliamentarians across the political spectrum. And everyone I spoke to on our side said, you have to be in the game. This is an economic transition issue, and you must have viable alternatives on the table. Interestingly, in talking to those parliamentarians, I would say to them always, what is your main source of energy? And they would almost, to a man and woman, respond, nuclear and gas. It is insane for us to have an almost religious obsession with solar and wind as though that's going to be able to provide what we need in an ongoing way in every circumstance. You must have all options on the table, and Peter and Ted O'Brien have led this debate in our country. And it's so interesting to me that the generation behind ours, Kieran, is actually quite comfortable with the notion of nuclear energy. They look at the small modular reactors in particular and what they might be able to do. So, and may I say, I had an interesting briefing yesterday on the offshore wind projects near Gippsland. They have a really long timeline as well. So I know it's easy, and I heard Andrew Charlton before say, it's often the never, these small modular reactors, but it's 2030 before you've got the first wind turbine working off the coast of Gippsland. So they're all long lead times. All options need to be on the table.
Well, the other point that Andrew made, your opposite number when we have our panel chats, he said that the other thing is that Australia is at a standing start when it comes to nuclear. That's not the case with comparable nations, Zoe.
Well, two things on that. Yes, we are on a standing start because we have a prohibition that we could get rid of tomorrow, but equally it does mean that the rest of the world is in that experimental trial phase. You will have small modular reactors in the ground within the next 10 years. There has been a process in the US which has reached some bumps on the road. That's fine. There's still a process going forward in Poland. So this technology will be tested. It's an era for a country of 26 million people to lead the way, to be the experimental ground for some of these new approaches to energy. But to be fair, with nuclear, you've got at least 30 countries that use it. France, US, UK, Canada, their backbone energy supply is all nuclear. France is now a major exporter of nuclear energy, precisely because, unlike some other European countries, it has not shut down its nuclear sector, and now it's reaping the rewards of being able to export it across the world, particularly given that much of Western Europe now has cut off its gas supplies from Russia.
And just finally, we spoke to you from Nathan Conroy's event on Saturday, and I know you campaigned with him. You spoke very fondly of your friend and no doubt the Liberal candidate going into the next election. There was a bit of a brouhaha when you posted something on Instagram, a photograph with the eventual winner of that by-election. What's been the reaction from your colleagues in the party room?
Sure. So, look, it was a great campaign, I thought, run by Nathan. He did an exceptional job. He was on the campaign non-stop for 3 months, and he did a great job, and he got a great increased margin for the two-party preferred. It's a great base for next time, and I really, really hope that he will run again. In terms of Jodie, look, Jodie and I know each other. The Mornington Peninsula is a really small place. It's like lots of little country villages. Everyone knows everyone. And I had worked with her on a project that she had established some time ago, the Women's Spirit Project, that was all about assisting women in really difficult times across the peninsula. So indeed, gave her a shout out late on Saturday night to say, good on you, Jodie, and I look forward to working with you in the same way that I had Peter Murphy in relation to infrastructure, in relation to mental health funding, whatever it was. Peter always had an open door, and I really appreciated that, and I hope Jodie will too. But I wish her the best, and I will be standing on the stump with Nathan come the next election.
Zoe McKenzie, thanks. We'll talk to you soon. Appreciate it.
Thanks.